Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode on the Nutmegs and Knee Slides podcast. This is the first episode of the 2026-27 season, the first episode since the World Cup finished. It has been a bit. We've had a bit of we have had a bit of time to reset, reorganize the studio. We've got big plans coming up, including a merchandise shop and much more of that. But yes, for now, we are back up and ready for the new season of the Premier League and also football in general. So before I do, I just want to touch on two things to do with the World Cup. I did a recording of a video, but we had trouble uploading it. We are working on stuff like that to be more consistent with our uploads, but for now, we do have a good system to upload videos and we should be good for the future. But for now, this is what I want to do. I want to go over two things: thoughts on the final and the awards and team of the tournament. So first thing, the thoughts on the final. Again, I've got a whole live reaction video um, on YouTube and on social media, TikTok, Instagram. I've got the shorts on my reaction as well. So feel free to check them out if you want the full reaction. But that commentary on Ferran Torres' goal is probably one of the best I've ever done, and not just talking about the podcast. We've not been on the podcast for a very long time, but I think I've watched a lot of games, and I've commentated them in my head, kind of. But that is probably the best one that I've done because it's an exciting moment. Obviously, big moment. You win the World Cup. Ferran Torres will feel that excitement going through his head. He'll definitely be excited. But yeah, a lot of people have asked me what I thought about the World Cup. Like so many people after that World Cup final, they were just like, "Oh, Ravi, what did you make of the World Cup? What do you think? All that?" And I honestly said to them, or I said to them all the same thing: the world is a better place because Argentina lost that final. Because here's the thing. I remember watching that game to think that Argentina didn't even get a single shot in the game at all until like 110 minutes. Emi Martinez was brilliant. They didn't attack at all Argentina until Spain scored. And like, I'll be honest, if Argentina had scored, Simeone had a miss that could have been scored. Messi got close, I think, with one shot maybe. But like, watching that game after Ferran Torres scored, I was watching it thinking, do you know what? I pray, I'm a neutral fan, but I pray that Argentina do not snatch a late goal. Because if they snatch a late goal now and win the game on penalties, it is going to be the jammiest. It would be the most undeserving World Cup final win that we've probably ever seen in our lifetime. And that is coming from, like, any of us. That's coming from teams where, say, I believe it was, 1994, only about 30 odd years ago, where, we had another, we had a 0-0 again in Rose Bowl in the United States, where Brazil won the World Cup final purely because Roberto Baggio smashed his penalty over the bar. Like, that would have been the most undeserved World Cup win ever. But yeah, I think Spain deserve it. As far as the awards go, Rodri is player of the tournament. Do you know what? I would actually give the player of the tournament to Mbappe or Jude Bellingham. Like, Rodri's been good, but like those two have been the best. If I had to give it to one of them, I'd probably say maybe Kylian Mbappe because he constantly was just scoring goals every step of the way, really. Every tournament phase he was scoring except for in the semi-final, obviously where they got beat. But yeah, he was brilliant. And I would probably give him player of the tournament 10 goals in a World Cup. I don't care that it's an expanded tournament now. That's amazing. Those are great numbers. Young player of the tournament was Pau Kubasi. I thought it was going to be Lamine Yamal, but looking back on it, you know, whole Spain's biggest perk in this whole tournament was their defense and how brilliant they were. 7 games, World Cup won, and only conceded one goal. So to be fair, it makes sense that Pau Kubasi won it because he has been good for them. Speaking of which, can we talk about that new trophy? I mean, what on earth is that new young player of the tournament trophy? Like that, the one that FIFA's had for years now. Just a little silver ball on a little stand. It's so simple, but it's so much better than the one that they gave Pau Kabasi. I mean, it looked. I was confused. I didn't even know what it was at first. It doesn't even look like a trophy. It looked like something that a physiologist or a physicist or a biologist literally hangs on their shelf in their science lab or something like that. Like I had no idea what it was. But yeah, Pau Kabasi, fair enough win. And speaking of Spain's, great backline, you have to give Unai Simon the goalkeeper of the tournament. And whilst World Cup touch, on to player of the tournament. Oh, so not player of the tournament, team of the tournament. In goal, I know a lot of people picked Vozinha, and I know FIFA themselves picked Vozinha, but like he did go out in the last 32. I think it's brilliant what he did and how great of a tournament he had. Like his Instagram just blew up. 16 million people followed him. I myself followed him and all that. So like, yeah, but like the best goalkeeper is Unai Simon. That's why he's won the best goalkeeper of the tournament. Right back, Pedro Porro and Cucurella. I think they are spot on. Centre backs, I actually would have gone for Paul Kubasi and Lisandro Martinez. Because I think Lisandro Martinez has been amazing for Spain so far. That's not Spain, Argentina in that tournament. And I think it was a shame for Argentina when he went off injured. Like, that was big. Um, and yeah, Pau Kubasi for obvious reasons, like I've just said, brilliant for Spain. Um, also in the midfield, Rodri, Jude, and Elise. I think Rodri's the holding midfielder. Jude's the box to box. I know he's not played that role much in the tournament, but I've seen him play it. He's good. He's a great player, Jude Bellingham. And in the attacking mid, Michael Elise, because he's played there a lot for France. The fact he's got 7 assists, broken Pele's record, that's brilliant. It's been a tournament of records broken, and they're big records too. So yeah, I think you can give Elise a place. And then the front line speaks for itself. Messi on the right, Mbappe on the left, and Haaland up top. Like, that's like, what, 20, 24, 25, maybe around that much goals between the three of them in this tournament. That is pretty good. And there's so much more good players that you don't include in that team, like Harry Kane. Harry Kane misses out on the team. Like I said, Bozinha misses out on the team. If you look maybe towards Argentina again, I know they weren't too much, but Enzo doesn't get in the team. Again for France, Dembele doesn't get in the team. Many good players, stunning players, stunning performances. And the last thing I want to touch on with this World Cup is I think it was shocking how Argentina are such bad losers because the way Enzo, I know this is not going anything, but like Enzo, the way he just absolutely cleared Kubasi to get himself the second yellow, I was like, I don't know why he's protesting, like he's got to be getting the yellow card. But there was another moment in that very same minute where Cucurella, he did this to his mouth like that, and Messi just ran to the referee and said, "Hey, he's covered his mouth. He's got to get a red card." And I'm like, "What are you on about? That is not covering his mouth." Almiron and Hincapie, they did this. Cucurella did this. Like, honestly, it was so poor. And then to think that Paredes, people have actually signed a petition to get him banned for life. I'm like, I wouldn't hesitate to sign that too because it shocked me is in the sense that he got a yellow card when he came on at half time and then he didn't get a second yellow card. How he didn't get a second yellow card in that game is beyond me. But like the fact he lashes out at Eric Garcia and then puts his hand around Eric Garcia's neck and then just absolutely it's a harshly used word, but he attacks. He attacks Gavi. Like that is just such poor display from Paredes. Like, I think it was referee got it absolutely right sending him off. And then Scaloni in tears in the press conference saying, we didn't do enough, we weren't good enough, that we couldn't win it. Of course you couldn't. You sat back for the whole game. You know? You're the coach. Don't listen to Messi. Messi did nothing in that game. You're the coach. You make the decisions. You pick who goes out there. You decide who your team or how your team is playing. And you chose that. So don't be crying in your press conference because you lost a World Cup because you did nothing in the attack. Like, that's genuinely that's embarrassing from Argentina to do that. It's shocking. And I think, like I said, the narrative on Lionel Messi as a favourite and the amount of favour he gets from many, many fans, like, I think maybe not as much Messi as players like Paredes or Enzo or Scaloni, but like people are starting to see now Argentina for what they are. They came against England and tried to start an absolute riot in the first few minutes. And everyone brushed it over because all the focus was on England, and England, threw the game away. Argentina go, Messi's going to go win another World Cup, and then he loses it. And now people are starting to like, I'm not a fan of that, to be fair, when people only want to stick with someone and support them when they're winning and all that. But I think it's important that Argentina lost that game because now people see them for what they are, which is a bunch of rats. Like most of those players, many of them are good. Lisandro Martinez, he spoke about how he thought about retiring after his ACL injury. You know, many other good players in that team. Emiliano Martinez. I'm surprised he's not in it because we know that he was a bit of a house. Sorry for my language. Actually, I'll bleep that one out actually because I don't like swearing on the podcast. But yeah. With all his antics in the Qatar World Cup and the fact that he didn't get involved in any of it is actually pretty shocking because he showed up to the final to play football. So I have to hold my hands up high for him to control himself. But I think now people are starting to see Argentina for what they really are. And like I said, the world is a better place because Argentina lost that game. Think you're better than me at fantasy football? How about we find out? If you want, join the Nutmegs and Knee Slides Fantasy Premier League team before the season starts, and we might just have to sell this in the game. Or the players will. Join code is LAKPH4 for anyone who's interested. So, see you there. Now back to the video. So now it's time to talk about club football. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is transfer business. Now, I'm going to go league by league. So starting to do with PSG, I remember what I said about them after this Champions League when, they're back-to-back European champions, PSG. It feels kind of fresh, coming all back to this. Like, it's like a whole new world of club football. But, after a World Cup. But like I said, I think PSG, after winning the Champions League, where all they did was sign Chevalier, who barely played, and Zabani, who, again, didn't really play that much. I think I said that other teams, the Arsenals, your Real Madrids, your Bayerns, your Cities, your Uniteds, your Liverpools, your Barcelonas, and all that, in this summer window, they are going to strengthen. They're going to get stronger. And if PSG, unless all their players get a whole lot better, which looking at them, it's hard to see them getting better because they're already really good. Unless they go out there and buy and all that, they're not going to get much stronger either. And the thing is, the fact that they've gone and they've sold Gonzalo Ramos is the fact that Gonzalo Ramos left them for 78 million when he's a backup striker who barely plays, and he's a bit of a donkey, to be fair. I think he scored in the World Cup, when he comes on for Ronaldo, but like, I've watched him play. me saying donkey, that's what my dad calls him. My dad watched him with me in Paris, and he literally went, "Oh, Ramos missed a penalty. Doesn't do much. He's a bit of a donkey, isn't he?" But yeah, the fact that he's gone to AC Milan for like a club record fee, pretty surprising. And the fact that PSG aren't strengthening, they missed out on Yan Diamond, who I believe they did really want. And speaking of Diamond, we're going to talk about his new club now, Real Madrid. Um, the thing is, Real Madrid, the last 2 years, if you're a Real Madrid player or a coach or part of the behind the scenes staff or you're a fan, Real Madrid right now are in a period where the fans aren't really used to what they're seeing. And what I mean by that is Real Madrid's always been renowned as this big, big club. And, you know, they rarely ever go trophyless because when you're a team like Real Madrid, trophies are what your whole club is all about. Now, in 24-25, they went trophyless. You know, I don't count Super Cup, I don't count Intercontinental Cup, I don't count any of that. You know, I'm talking about Spanish Super Cup, Copa del Rey, La Liga, Champions League. They won none of them. All of them. Not only did they win none of them, except for the Champions League, all of them were won by Barcelona, their biggest rivals, and Barcelona went further than them in the Champions League. So, like, you'd think they need to strengthen. They didn't do much, you know. They brought in Dean Huijsen and Trent Alexander-Arnold, and they bring in Xabi Alonso as the coach. But in fairness, it doesn't look like they got much better. And they've had another, like, the last time before that, the last time they had a trophyless season was, I believe, 2020, 2021. That was when, you know, I think Bilbao won the Spanish Super Cup, and Barca won Copa del Rey, Atleti won La Liga, Chelsea won the Champions League, and Real Madrid didn't win anything that year. I believe Zinedine Zidane literally resigned because he was that embarrassed about it or something like that. But like he did resign, Zidane. He was their coach. Then they give it to Ancelotti. Ancelotti obviously left after that year. And then like again, they've had another trophy this year. And that's the thing, like Real Madrid fans, they're not used to having a club like theirs not win trophies. I'm not saying La Liga isn't competitive, but most of the time, any trophies in Spain, particularly, are a fight between Madrid, Barcelona, and sometimes Atletico Madrid. You know, every football fan will say that. And the fact that Real Madrid's not competed for the last 2 years to get any trophies, the fans will be surprised. Now they're bringing in Real Madrid. Now they're bringing in Jose Mourinho. And Jose Mourinho, I think the thing about him is everyone talks about Mbappe being a dictator, and I don't agree with that. I don't think he's a dictator. I think he's a great player who has a bit of an ego. That being said, though, lots of players have egos, you know? But, you know, Mourinho is a player who does not take, sorry, Mourinho's a coach who does not take anything from his players, you know? He has the final word. He is always on the top of the food chain. He will he will not take anything from Mbappe. He will not take anything from Vinicius. He will not take anything from Jude Bellingham. He is always going to be on top. You know, that's Jose Mourinho for you right there. Now, in doing that, they've obviously had to spend money. And they have definitely done that, you know. I think Fran Garcia's gone to Real Betis. Um, they've made, I believe, not Joan Garcia, what's he called? Gonzalo Garcia. He's gone to Fulham now. And in doing that, they've raised some money and they've bought Ivo Canate. Obviously, they bought him for free. They bought in what's it called, Mark Cucurella. That's a good signing for them. You know, they brought him in. They brought in Yan Diamond now, obviously. So like, those are some good signings for Madrid, and like, you know, their talks of bringing in Rodri. I don't think they're gonna. I don't think bringing in Rodri is going to be easy, and I don't know if it's going to be the best move. I think if Rodri goes to Real Madrid, it's going to be a bit of a panic buy because you know Rodri's like 30 now, I think, or something around that. And Real Madrid often do buy for the future. You know, they've signed older players, but not. for crazy money and not and like most of the time like Hostel was a loan signing. Like they won't just do that. They will be careful and cautious in who they buy. But yeah, so I'm unsure if Rodri will go to Real Madrid. But if I had to say one of them, I don't think he'll go to Madrid. I think he'll probably stay at City. But Real Madrid look like they're getting a good team together. Now, here's the other thing I want to touch on. There's interesting rumours of Vinicius Jr. to Arsenal. And I thought that looked all the more likely that now that Yan Diamond has gone to Madrid, because now you've got Rodrigo, who has been injured for a little while, but then you've got Mbappe, you've got Vinicius now, you've got now Diamond, you've got Arda Güler, and it's like, would that maybe prompt Vinicius Jr. to go to a team like Arsenal? I was very surprised when Arsenal let Leandro Trossard go to Besiktas of all clubs. But yeah, they agreed on it, and now he's gone. So Arsenal would maybe look to bring in a new left winger. Vinicius Jr., if he does go to Arsenal, it's going to be for a big, big price tag, like 150 million probably. But like, I don't know. My understanding now today is that um, Vinicius has had positive talks with Real Madrid about staying at the club. So yeah, you could probably say now that Arsenal won't get Vinny Jr. It'd be interesting, but no, I just can't see it happening. Arsenal have though just signed Bruno Guimaraes, and they were I'm also going to say it's not Jan, Christian Norgard. Him going to Everton for 7 million. That is a bargain price, to be fair, Everton. But yeah, Arsenal doing a bit of business for Bruno Guimaraes. It's a good midfield, to be fair, when you have Odegaard, Guimaraes, and Rice, and you got Eze on the bench. So like, yeah, those are decent, to be fair. Um, Looking at a few other clubs, I think Barcelona, Adeyemi and Gordon, two decent signings, but like neither one of them can replace Robert Lewandowski. So I think you do need to try and get a better striker, or you need to play Ferran Torres. There are links with Ferran Torres going to PSG, but I think the best thing for Ferran Torres is to stay at Barcelona because at PSG, they've got, as I said before, they got rid of Gonzalo Ramos, but like Kvaratskhelia, Ousmane Dembele, Desiree Doué, and Bay, yeah, they've got decent players. If he goes there, he'll definitely be playing up top in the striker probably, but like I think the best thing for Torres is fight for his place at Barcelona. Now that Lewandowski's gone, there's never really been a better time for him to be there and fighting to, you know, start for Barcelona. Um, then a couple other Premier League teams, Manchester City. Um, they've gone a lot on signing Elliot Anderson. And the fact they paid 159 million, I think it's a club record fee. Again, like that is big, big money, and I don't think he's worth that much. And I'm going to say this: Elliot Anderson, when he signed for Man City, he said he's joining the biggest club in Manchester. He does not know anything. I'm sorry. I do like the guy. I've seen United play. I've seen him play against United, especially last season at Trafford. He got 2 assists. He's a good player, Elliot Anderson. But to go to Manchester City and saying you're joining the biggest club in Manchester. If you want to say the best, fine. Say the best. City have won a lot more trophies than us in the last few years. They say that. That's fine. But to say you're joining the bigger club, like honestly, the biggest club in honestly, the biggest club in Manchester, he would not say that if he wasn't trying to have a dig at Man United. I'm just saying that. He's like saying, I'm joining the biggest club in Manchester. Like, there's only one other team really that can fight for that title, and you're just saying, "Oh, yeah, City's bigger than United," and I'm like, Mate, no, 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 no. When you're not fooling anyone, you're having a dig at Man United there. So yeah, don't try and cover it up. We all know it. You're trying to dig at United. Um, but yeah, just Elliot Anderson. Watch what you say. I mean, Rayan Cherki joined City the other summer, and he said, "Oh, I can't wait to play against Man United. I'll kill them," because obviously Man United beat Cherki when he was playing for Lyon in the Europa League in that big comeback. And honestly, the only thing Cherky's done against Man United is get passed around. The little Cunha, Bruno, Luke Shaw triangle pass. That's the only thing Cherky's done against United. Another team that's making big news is Chelsea because I mean, you know, I thought they actually had a transfer ban, but it looks like now they're belting out a lot of signings, and I think now that ban's come into place. But yeah, I think Morgan Rogers, big money signing. Barco, another big signing. They're bringing in a lot of players. To be fair, Chelsea, or a couple, mainly youth ones and some young ones. But honestly, Chelsea need to get their act together. I mean, the problems at Chelsea aren't within how much they spend or what the players do. The problems within Chelsea are in the upper higher stages. Xabi Alonso, I think he did good at Real Madrid, and he just fell out with Mbappe and Florentino Perez, and that's why he left. Alonso's a good coach, but he won't be at Chelsea very long. Like, since I started putting these videos up, since I started this podcast on YouTube, I believe my most viewed video has got big front title, and it says Beluco are a mess. And they are. Like, Chelsea cannot keep a manager for more than 2 years. And I said a while ago, a couple months, that I can't see Chelsea winning a league title for another 10 or so years. And it's because of that constant change is what's going to ruin you. And granted, there's clubs like Man United who have made constant changes too. Liverpool made a change and straight up won the league. City somewhat did it with Pep a while ago. Sometimes you've got to trust the process. It's different for each club, obviously. But the constant changes in appointing managers, whether they're good or they're bad, you've got big, big challenges. So, yeah, I don't think the problems with Chelsea are within the players. Morgan Rogers is an interesting signing, and it'd be odd to see where he fits in. Maybe in a midfield with Enzo and Caicedo. He plays alongside Palmer, Estevao, and maybe João Pedro up top. But decent team, to be fair. But unless they sort their ownership out and their manager situation, Xabi Alonso's a good coach, but will he stay long term? That's what's going to be important for Chelsea. And last club I want to touch on is my own, obviously, Manchester United. And it's been an interesting window for us because we've, as a United fan, it's interesting to see how this window's gone. I thought before the World Cup we'd signed Edison and then the deal was off. And then we go and sign Andre Santos. I mean, for 50 million, it's an okay transfer. And I guess we do need squad depth now that Casemiro's gone and we're going to be playing Champions League football again. But it's a hard thing to do to make sure you get the right signings. And a lot of Chelsea fans did say, "Oh, I hate that we've sold him because he's a good player." And I'm like, "Yeah, but every club overhypes and highly rates their own players, so of course they're gonna say that." But I've seen him in pre-season; he's looked alright. Obviously, all will depend on what you can do in the actual season when it starts. But yeah, and Tielemans, I'll say it. That signing caught me out of nowhere. I think that came out of nowhere. Not just out of nowhere, just triggered the release clause. Boom, here we go. Signing Tielemans, and I thought, okay, that's actually a pretty good signing because when you look at aside from maybe Bruno and Maguire and that, maybe Luke Shaw as well, we've got a very younger squad. that's got somewhat inexperience. United has shifted to this narrative as of late of signing Premier League proven players. And I think Tielemans is as good as they can get when you want Premier League proven, but also very affordable because he's played a number of games for Leicester City and Aston Villa. He's won trophies and scored in the finals, scored in the big games, So, yeah, I mean, Tielemans, good signing. And I think it's going to be a fight between him and Andre Santos to start. My ideal midfield, I think, for now is Bruno, Mainu, Tielemans. But yeah, it could change depending on who has a good form, who drops off. It's all going to be different. But yeah, there's a lot to do. And I am. It's interesting as a Man United fan because we signed Kevin Cardallo, I think, from Leeds. But we need to try and go for a winger, and I want to see more action from Man United in this window. Because the thing is, as good as we finished last year and we qualified for the Champions League, I remember I was at the Leeds game at Old Trafford, and not solely this game, but a few games, particularly that one, I was watching the way the team played, and I was thinking, you know what? I really don't have high hopes for this upcoming season. One, maybe because we've had good teams. We finished third, but we finished third under Erik ten Hag in his first year, and then we finished eighth. But also, watching some of the football, it was granted in that game in particular at Leeds, United hadn't played for what 3 or 4 weeks maybe, and Leeds had obviously played a bit before. But yeah, I mean, you never know. But I just felt like unless we get it right, and I think United's made a decent choice in giving the full-time job for Michael Carrick. I don't believe. I believe there's better managers than Michael Carrick, but I don't believe there was any better available. Obviously Pep's better than Michael Carrick, and maybe Ancelotti, maybe a bit better. Tuchel, I'm unsure. I'm much more unsure about that one as I was before the World Cup. But there's better managers out there than Michael Carrick, but they take a lot to convince. And I think Michael Carrick, the way he's come in and just straight away revolutionised the team, imagine what you can do with a bit of time and money. So, yeah, I want to see Michael Carrick do well. I want to see every Manchester United player and manager do well. And, yeah, pre-season they've looked all right. But again, we've had good pre-seasons and gone into the season awful. So, you can't really base it off anything. You just have to watch the game, watch the team play, and then you'll see what happens. But, yeah. Transfer news is very interesting right now. Hopefully we'll get more of these videos up. But for now, I'm going to leave it there. And I very much do hope that we will have people following this series as we have for a while now. So thank you very much, and I'll hopefully see you again very soon. In a bit. Romans and East Lions is very grateful for all the great fan support we've been getting over the last few months. And now we're taking it to another level. We're now on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Spotify. If you enjoy the podcast, give us a follow, a like, a subscribe, anything you can. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again very soon.